According to the clerk, okay, you have 2 minutes, but it's only on the referral. On the referral only.
So I want to understand the procedural bylaw, because my understanding is I have a right to ask the mover of the motion a question.
Exactly.
Then I also have a right to speak to it.
Yes.
So I'd like to.
So right now we're doing the question, and then you have the right to speak. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just want to understand the implications. There has been talk about how there are two classes of citizens receiving tax breaks based on when you were born, not what services you use or what monies you pay to the city. It's just clearly an arbitrary decision that people born in September aren't the same as people born in August. And my question is, would you accept a friendly amendment that all motions around retroactive fairness be carried forward to that budget deliberation so that we sustain some level of fairness in this chamber?
Okay. Yeah, okay, yes. Well, first of all, Councillor Vaughn, it's only on the referral
I recognize
that you asked the
I'm
question,
whether,
not an amendment to her motion. Her motion is to refer to budget.
I appreciate that, but you can refer, you can amend a referral motion if it's friendly.
No, it's not friendly.
Well, it's not your decision as to whether it's friendly. It's the mover's motion.
Okay,
Very friendly.
Councillor Davis.
I'm not sure how you can do that when we're referring the whole item. I think you could request a supplementary report to accompany the referral motion.
But for example, we could make it that the December, the mayor's position that he wants to do it immediately on January, we could make the reimbursement retroactive to January to honor the mayor's commitment to have unequal tax breaks.
Yes, and I think all of those questions can be considered in the budget process.
Yeah, that's, okay, thank you. It's in the budget Councillor Holyday, on the referral only.
When it is
No, you have 2 minutes. Councillor Holyday.
Well, I guess
If you want to speak, you can put your name where it says request to question staff, please. Councillor Holyday, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, it's just again on that unfairness that Councillor Vaughn brought up. Councillor Davis said, and I think you agreed with him, that there was an unfairness to people in December as opposed to January.
asking to have it referred to the budget process, which is 3 weeks away, so that we can understand the impact of losing $64 million, so that our communities can participate in the discussion, because they may have some ideas about the PVT, and they do, because my constituents have told me they would like to consider phasing it in or out. They would consider a deferral for another year. They might consider another date. They'd like to see potentially the revenue replaced by other means.
You supported this in the first place, did you not?
I'm simply asking for us to have it discussed in the context.
Thank you.
No,
you answered the
if I
question,
might.
Councillor Davis.
This tax was discussed in the.
Okay. Now we'll go to speakers on the referral, on the request to question staff. I have Councillor Perks. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. We have some very important responsibilities here when we consider the city's finances. Anytime we consider a revenue stream, we have to consider whether it's fairly implemented. Saying that you're going to tax everyone on that side of the chamber and not everyone on this side of the chamber for an arbitrary rule like you were born on this day or that day is unfair implementation. Simple and obvious. We have an opportunity to do this in a fair way if we defer this off to the Budget Committee, because we have plenty of time until the following September. That's one. The second is, we all got a budget briefing earlier this week, and several principles were put in there. I want to remind you of 3 of them. One is that we have a charge to our Budget Committee to make sure that our structural deficit does not grow. That is one of the most crucial things that we have to do as the elected representatives of the City of Toronto, because as that structural deficit grows, our capacity to deliver our services diminishes. Our capacity to hold the line on taxes diminishes. The mayor says he doesn't want to whack anybody down the road. If we make the structural hole bigger, that's an inevitable consequence. The second principle is that we should have diversified streams of revenue so that if there are problems with property taxpayers, and we're seeing it as current value assessment comes in place, being able to pay their taxes, we need to have another way of bringing in money that doesn't drive people out of their homes as they are reassessed. That's an essential question for us to consider. The third principle is nobody ever goes home and figures out how much they're going to spend on groceries and rent without knowing what their income is. We need to know what our income is at the...
Thank you. Thank you. I would also like to remind members of council, when you get up to speak, the timer is right in front of you, so you can look to see how many seconds you have left, so I don't need to interrupt.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Vaughan, 2 minutes.
Well, I too will be supporting the referral, and I would hope that if it is referred and a decision is made, that fairness be front and center, whatever decision council makes eventually on this issue. I don't think we should have an asymmetrical set of tax breaks that favors some people born on one day and others differently on a different day. I don't think that's justifiable. As to why I support this going to budget, I think it's part of a larger budget context, and I'll speak to it longer when I have my speech, because I have a feeling this one will fail. But the reality is that for me this has always been a question of how we tax, not how much we tax. And I think we're making a decision about how much we tax, and as opposed to how we tax right now, and that's going to have consequences for how we deal with some of the issues that Councillor Perks spoke to. In terms of the need to refer this, I don't think we've thought through the implications on a whole series of other fronts. And we have heard people say that this tax was imposed unfairly because September was chosen as a date. We didn't actually choose that date. The province chose that date. The province told us how they were going to collect and manage this to mitigate our administrative costs. And it's the province that chooses to collect your vehicle registration and your license renewal on a monthly basis based on date of birth, not the city. And so given full control over our taxing and spending powers and not to have to live under the sort of the colonial structure of a province, I would have chosen a much fairer implementation process. That, however, was not an option in front of us, and so we didn't choose it. But we now have total control of how we exit this tax. And if we don't do it fairly, I think that tells us that this council is prepared to choose winners and losers in the city based on simple things like date of birth. Next will be what street you live on, and after that, it might be your age. And those sorts of determinants, as a basis for tax policy, give me great concern because they are not fair, and taxes should be fair.
Thank you, Councillor Vaughan. Councillor Layton, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Just one moment, sorry. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm rising in support of Councillor Davis's motion as well. With all due respect to the Mayor's assessment of the conversation here, I actually think that because we're talking about government revenue here and budget revenue, it is part of the budget discussion and should be made part of the budget discussion. We can't start considering pieces of the budget and the revenue sources without what's going to be affected in the end. And so I think deferring this or referring this to the budget committee for consideration under the proper cycle of considering our revenues and our expenditures is probably the appropriate course of action. I understand that in our last meeting we did vote, in fact, to change part of the budget. This is to eliminate one of the costs. I think eliminating costs and eliminating revenue sources are two different things. I think that's because before we even finished the year, eliminating part of what was in fact counted on to come into the budget before we finished the spending or looked at how this money could be spent the next year would be a mistake. So I support the Councillor Davis's motion to refer this to the Budget Committee so that we can have that more thorough examination of what the exact implications of such a loss in revenue will have on the city.
Thank you, Councillor Layton. We have Councillor Mamilidi, 2 minutes.
I would encourage you not to support the referral and to support what's in front of us and vote on it as quickly as possible. We've heard from staff already. They've given you an indication that this thing can work, that they have no concerns with it whatsoever. What's funny about this is, at the end of the day, those that will be voting for the deferral, or the referral, I think it is, that's in front of us, how they're actually going to vote with respect to the tax itself, or whether they'll actually vote to get rid of the tax, or whether this is actually an attempt just to stall and perhaps drag out this particular issue for not only this council session, but perhaps even drag out the whole decision. And I can say this to you: if they're successful in dragging out this particular tax, the people of Toronto won't see any benefit in terms of this and getting rid of the $60 until next September, October, or November, because they want to tie it into the budget. And if you tie it into the budget, we're not going to be able to move forward with this. So I would encourage you not to support this particular stalling tactic, because I think that's what it is. And I'm curious to see those that vote in favor of the stalling tactic, whether or not they'll actually vote at the end of the day to get rid of the tax. And I can't wait to see that vote.
Thank you. Now, okay, it's 12:30. So what is the wish of council? We have 5 more speakers. Do we want to extend to complete the vote on the referral, or do we want to recess? So do I have a motion to complete?
I'd like to ask, I'd like to move that motion that we actually deal with the referral item before lunch.
Okay. Okay. So can I have a recorded vote on that, please? We could have members of council take their name off, and it would only take a minute.
Yes, but it is their privilege. Please so choose.
Councillor Del Grande, please. Councillor Carroll. Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Doucette, please. And Councillor Perruzza.
The motion to extend the debate beyond 12:30 does not carry. The vote is 16 to 24.
Okay, so we're recessed to 2 o'clock. I believe that there's a budget meeting at 12:45. Committee room 1. Thank you. Any further releases? Okay, we will now return to the mayor's key item EX 1.7. Councillor Vaughan.
I would just like to understand that there are no more notices of condolences. Lillian Schaefer, who is one of the founders of Now Magazine, passed away this weekend. I have intention to bring forward a condolence motion, and I would ask and seek indulgence from council to be able to introduce that if this in fact is a one-day meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
absolutely.
that'll be coming forward, and thank you.
Yes. Okay, so if I can ask the clerk to please bring up the speakers list. Okay. Okay, we are speaking on the referral, and you have 2 minutes. The next speaker is Councillor De Grande. Sorry, I have to find your, okay, here it is. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will not support deferral. And the reason that I will not is that I think everybody is very clear and understands that candidate Rob Ford ran on this particular item. He's now the mayor, and this is no secret, it's no surprise. And I would like to have it dealt with today. In terms of, I've heard a number of people talk about fairness. I raised this issue of fairness that the City of Toronto personal vehicle tax did not match the Province of Ontario personal vehicle tax. So if somebody was to pay it, and they pay it in January, and they sell the car in February, they get a rebate from the province, but not from the city. So I don't know where all the fairness advocates disappear to when it came to that. And I want to remind candidates, while we don't have the right to bear arms, there was a little thing called a T-tax that created a revolution and created a country. So while it may not be a big deal with respect to the tax for some members of council, it is a big deal for the populace. And I heard them very well. I heard it at the door, and I heard it as a political pledge, not only by Mayor Ford, but by the other leading candidates as well. So to defer it, I wouldn't support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mihevc.
Thank you.
2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I will support the deferral, and I'll tell you why. If I were to come forward with a motion to open libraries on Sundays across the city, and there was broad support, I think there is broad support around that, folks would say to me, Joe, great idea, but refer that to the Budget Committee so that we can match the service request to the budget implications. That's what the budget process does. And you know what? I'm actually leaning towards not continuing with this tax. However, we have to do it in the right and proper manner. We have to have the discussion, and this is what drives me crazy sometimes around here and in the city, or when you talk to folks, is that we'll have the discussion on taxes over here, and of course they're always evil, and we try to avoid them, and we don't want to pay them. And then on other days, we'll have discussions around service cuts and how the city is looking shabbier, or we want this, or we want more parks programs, or we don't, or we want less parks programs, or whatever. We need to find a way to have this mature conversation saying taxes equals services. So while it is very good to propose tax cuts, I would be loath if we did not make that kind of decision in the context of the service implications of that decision. That's what the budget process is. If this was a service request, we would be insisting that the budget process be how we handle it. And so that's why I think we have to handle this maturely. What bothered me about the comments that Mayor Ford made was precisely the attempt to bifurcate, to divide those two discussions, to divide those discussions and not integrate them the way we should.
Councillor Dec16th, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The cost of running my house has gone up, mainly since July 1st with HST and the cost of putting gas in my car. If I want to continue living my lifestyle, I either have to increase my revenue or I have to cut some of my costs. My concern about not putting this to the budget issue is we've been told we're not having property tax increases. We've also been told we're not having major service cuts. A little concerned about the word major. I don't want us to find ourselves in the hole for $64 million and, as other councillors have said, having to cut things like library hours, community centres. As a new member of council, I believe my responsibility is to request that this does go before budget. We look at the big picture, we look at what the staff is going to present. We know if we can afford to cut this tax now. If we can, fantastic. We can always then eliminate it as of September. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Doucette. Councillor DeGiorgio, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to make 3 quick points. I will not be supporting the referral. First of all, let me say that great ideas are a dime a dozen. not all of us have the fortitude to take a great idea that we might have and take it across the city in a mayoralty campaign and get the support of all the people. And if you are prepared to take that step, you then get to implement your ideas, notwithstanding whatever the objections might be. And Mayor Ford, like it or not, does have that power. Let me also say that he has more power than you might think. The one other myth that I think we should shatter is that the mayor has one vote. And the reason I say that is because I go back to 1988 when direct election to Metro was first introduced. And the way it evolved was, you may recall when Alan Tonks was the chair of Metro, you had councillors directly elected to Metro, including the person that was appointed as chairman. There, that person had one vote because he was not elected across the City of Toronto. On the other hand, the mayor under this new system is elected across the City of Toronto. And what that means is that every ward has two councillors. In my ward, it's myself and Mayor Ford. In Mr. Cole's ward, Mr. Cole and Mayor Ford. Every single ward has two councillors. And in that context, let me tell you that the mayor carries a lot of votes. My final comment that I want to make is that every 4 years, we basically determine the public interest. Through the mayoralty campaign, priorities are identified, and that's the new public interest for the next 4 years.
5 seconds, Councillor DeGiorgio.
Oh, I had one other point, but I'll delay it till later.
Thank you. Councillor McConnell, you have 2 minutes.
And I know you're going to enjoy every one of those minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair, Speaker. Well, the first thing I just wanted to say is that, yes, I did have, after all of that play out there, I did have 4 people who responded to my office. Actually, 8 people who responded, 4 in favor, 4 against. And I also had 2 phone calls, 1 for and 1 against. And so my concern about this is it's a $64 million additional pressure on our budget with no discussion as to where the money will come from. The mayor has agreed, when I asked the question, that it would not come from service cuts and it would not come from additional taxes. But it's very important for us to have explained, which I don't think we did, that this was to offset an additional 4% increase in taxes. That's why we went this way. It was supposed to be an additional 4% in taxes, and the land transfer was an additional 16% in taxes. That's why we did it this way. And for most of my community, they said, good on you, because they saw that, in fact, this money augmented and repaired the roads, quickened the stimulus package, and did all of those things that they thought was important. If at the end of the day, after we discuss it in the budget process, we're able to do this, and if people prefer to have this on their tax base rather than as a user fee, I have no objection. It doesn't matter to me either way. But I do think it's important for those people out there who think that they're going to have $60 in this pocket, that they understand that it either comes out of this pocket in their taxes or it comes out of the services that they so wish. So from me, I think that's the discussion, and it belongs in budget.
Your time's up. Thank you. Councillor Thompson, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if there was a political Trojan horse, this is it. The mayor campaigned on a priority and an objective of repealing this dreaded tax. We've heard many of the members speaking today who talk about the whole notion that this is going to be a great amount of pressure and impact on the residents in Toronto. You know what was a great amount of pressure and impact? Was moving our deficit from $1.2 billion to $4.1 billion under the last administration. Many of the same people are asking for a deferral of moving this matter to Budget Committee. We're, in fact, very supportive of that process. We say no to that. We say we want a decision here today. The bridge to the island was supposed to have cost, or would not cost, a toonie. The bridge was supposed to have cost $30 million to be made. The people of Toronto spent $40 million to cancel that bridge. So come on, give me a break here, folks. I think that what we need to do is to get on with it. We understand the stall tactics. We understand the game that's being played here. Every one of us understand it. Because for some to talk right now about $64 million is not available to build community centers and a variety of things like that, quite frankly, we know that's bogus. We also know that the mayor has said to the people of Toronto, this was a priority for me. And almost 400,000 Torontonians voted to support his position. So I think we ought not to deviate from what we need to do today. We just ought to get on with it because we're wasting a lot of time. Madam Speaker, I don't want to be here till Saturday night in order to deal with this particular council agenda. It's light enough. We can actually get through it. So let's get on with it.
Thank you. Councillor Fillion, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, normally I would agree with those who want to refer it to the budget process because that's logical and that is the proper way to do things. However, I don't think this is a normal situation here. Apart from the fact that Mayor Ford was elected with a mandate, I believe all of the mayoral candidates, or all the leading ones, had some version of scrapping this tax, and it's clearly unpopular. It was clearly unpopular in Willowdale for a variety of reasons, including the fact that the cars that are clogging their roads come from the 905 area and they don't pay the tax. So it was just, it was an unpopular tax. It seemed like a good idea at the time for that. I voted for it, but it's, and you know, in retrospect, it didn't have any public support, and as Councillor Thompson said, you know, when Mayor Miller first got elected, we voted to cancel the bridge at the first meeting, and I think Mayor Ford gets one of those as well, and he should be able to enjoy the honeymoon while it lasts.
Do we get a kiss?
Thank you, Councillor Fillion. Councillor Grimes, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Call the question.
Okay. Okay, well, just in case. Okay, the question has been called. All in favor, please press your buttons. Recorded vote. Yes, Councillor Mihevik. It's the question on the referral, yes. Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Councillor McConnell, please. Thank you.
Councillor Minnan-Wong, please.
The motion to call the question carries. The vote is 31-7.
Okay, so if we can put the Councillor Davis's motion on the screen, and we will be voting on the referral motion. Okay, members of council, it's on the screen. Moved by Councillor Davis that City Council refer this item to the Budget Committee for consideration in the 2011 budget process. All in favor, recorded vote, please.
Councillors Wong-Tam and McMahon, please.
The referral motion does not carry. The vote is 10-29.
Okay, so we'll continue with the item. Our next speaker is Councillor McConnell. Councillor McConnell, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to rise to actually debate this. My first motion will be, or I would ask that in addition to 1A, that we would, I'd move an amendment that no additional cost, with no additional cost to taxpayers and no cuts to property tax-supported services, which is what the mayor said that he could do.
Okay, just one sec, just one sec. Did you hand?
Yes.
You did? Okay, the staff haven't had an opportunity to do it, to print it up. So, okay, that's fine, Councillor McConnell. The staff will print it up. Sorry to, I'll give you a few more seconds. Go.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yes, I think that that's really what the mayor said that he was able to do. And, you know, I'm happy to look at how that happens over the next little while. What I am not prepared to support is voodoo budgeting. I'm not prepared to support things that say one thing but mean another, things that take out of one pocket and put into another. I think that absolutely people did not like this particular tax. And as I said a bit earlier, it was really about trying to avoid a property tax increase of 4%. And I would have happily taken one or the other. My community, when I went out to speak to them, they said no, go with the user fee. That's much better than senior citizens who don't drive needing to pay, or families in which there's only one car needing to pay as much as families where there are 5 cars. So at the end of the day, although I have heard from Councillor Ainsley that in fact this is a tax on the suburban area, if he looks at the per capita use of cars, it's just as, I wish it wasn't, but it's just as onerous in the downtown as it is in the suburban areas. There are just as many cars in my ward and Councillor Vaughan's ward as there is in Councillor Ainsley's or in Councillor Delgrand's. The fact of the matter is that I don't think we explained this tax very well. I don't think we actually went into our communities and gave them a choice. And if people are given information, then they can make educated decisions back. But when people are simply told that it was a tax grab, and not understanding that of all of the governments that live on taxes, that this government has to balance its books every year. It's not allowed to run a deficit as you can at the federal or provincial government. And our revenues do not grow according to the economy. So I think it is really time for this process of budget to demystify these kinds of hard-held, incorrect assumptions. And I'm sad for people who thought you could manage it one way or another. Now, Mayor Ford has said that he will be able to find $64 million out of efficiencies within departments. I'm fine with that. I did a lot of that work, as Councillor DeGiorgio would tell you, in the police budget. We looked at efficiencies. How can you deliver the same service with less money? That's terrific. But what is not okay, is under the table taking away services. And I would point you to one of the letters that came in from the women's organizations of our city that said that this vehicle registration tax at the time that it was put was a good thing for women because it allowed for services to continue for children and for families, and it allowed for those services to be enhanced, and that if we didn't do it that way, then we would be cutting into those services. And that is in your package, members of council, and I'd have you take a look at that, because I think it's really important that we understand where we're going to get the money and how we're going to get the money. Mayor Ford has said we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. The truth of the matter is that when you look at the work that the staff have done, it does not indicate that. It says, in fact, we have been able to grow our revenues and that we've had increased revenues, but some of those revenues are about how much snow, things you can't predict, how many units of housing will go in.
Councillor McConnell, if you can wrap it up, please.
I will, Madam. And
I
so
gave you an
I
extra
think
few
that, if I
seconds.
could, I just was going to say, I think that my motion would assure some of those people that their services will not be, will
Thank
not.
you. Thank you. Councillor DeBaremaker, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I think it is my first speech or presentation to this council. I would like to extend my congratulations to our new mayor, Mayor Ford, on his victory. And I want him to know, and all members of council to know, I look forward to working together, all of us, to making this amazing city even more amazing that it is. And I come out of an election campaign as one of the city councillors here who voted in favor of the vehicle registration tax. I'll be voting in favor of eliminating it this time around. But I feel very confident coming out of this election where everybody who voted in my ward, knew what I did. Make no mistake, every voter in the ward knew what I did because I told them, and certainly my competitors told them. I had one competitor whose election brochure actually talked more about me than himself. And apparently it was very successful because everyone said, well, this DeBaremaker guy is doing a pretty good job. We're going to vote for him. So I came out of the last election with a 6,000 vote margin, 11,000 votes to my next place competitor who attacked me on that position of about 4,500 votes. And my residents said, Mr. DeBaremaker, you've done a good job. You work hard. We're going to give you our vote. Go to City Hall and take care of us. That's the trust that they put in me as a result of this election, and put that same trust in all of us as city councillors. And that's why today, Madam Speaker, I'm standing to eliminate a tax that I voted in favor of. And as we know, Madam Speaker, all taxes are unpopular. We can probably say that. I'm going to look around this chamber and say, can you name me a tax that is popular? There are none. But this tax, Madam Speaker, was particularly unpopular. And I'm not sure which reason it was that made this so unpopular. Is it because we decided to make you pay this tax on your birthday? The City of Toronto said to you, happy birthday, you're 1 year older, give us some money. And if you own 2 or 3 cars, give us even more money. And certainly the families on my street that own 2 or 3 cars would say to me at the door, you know, Glenn, I have 3 cars. It's $180 every single year right at my birthday. The supporters of mine at the door would say, Glenn, we love you. We're going to vote for you, but get rid of that damn tax. I have to listen to the people who elected me, and I heard that message loud and clear. I think as well with this tax, Madam Speaker, I couldn't explain to people at the door. And I think this tax today may have survived a vote of confidence if we had been able to go to people's houses and say, here, ma'am, this is what we're doing with that $50 million. Steeles is being paved, Ellesmere is being paved, and Lawrence is being paved because we took money out of your pocket. Here's exactly where it's going, and next year we're going to pave Eglinton and Kingston and St. Clair. But we didn't do that. It went to a general revenue pile so that any of us knocking at the door and people said, what are you doing with my vehicle registration tax? I'd say, well, you know, we are trying to take care of the roads and fix bridges. And they'd say, what? Show me. And my answer is, well, I can't show you, but trust me, we're doing a good job at City Hall. I think the fact that people in Scarborough who had friends and relatives living across the street on Steeles Avenue said, wait a second, I can see the guy's house across the street. I pay the tax. He doesn't. He actually drives more than I do in the City of Toronto. He causes the potholes more than I do. He takes up more space than I do, but he doesn't pay a tax, and I do. And my friend down the street has a cottage up in Bancroft, and they've changed the registration for their license plate purposes to their cottage in Bancroft or to their sister's house in Markham or Pickering. So my neighbor down the street isn't even paying the tax because they found a loophole out of it. The seniors that I talked to said, Glenn, I don't drive my car in the winter. I drive my car to go to church. I drive my car to get groceries at the No Frills. And that's the only time I ever use my car, and yet I'm paying the same tax as everybody else. So for all of those reasons, Madam Speaker, I think we've all realized this, amongst unpopular taxes, is probably the most unpopular tax we've ever seen, and therefore we're going to remove it today. And with that, Madam Speaker, I am going to join with the mayor and, at his request, take a financial leap of faith. I read in the newspaper that Scarborough is going to get 2 new subways. And most of us in Scarborough go, wow, that sounds pretty good. But it's very obvious to me that's going to cost an extra $4 billion. More policing, millions more. Thank you. More road repairs. Everything costs more money, and yet we're taking away tax.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, do you want to extend? Okay, a motion to extend, moved by Councillor Kelly. Recorded vote. Oh, I thought it was Councillor. This is a vote to extend an additional 2 minutes.
Councillor Del Grande, please, and thank you.
The motion carries 40-1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members of council.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, and I don't think I'll need the whole 2 minutes. But, Madam Speaker, I'm willing today to take that financial leap of faith, knowing that we are going to spend more, I believe, on Transit City or Transportation City or Subway City, with the lines in Scarborough costing at least $4 billion more, and that's not touching or building anything along Eglinton or along Finch in Etobicoke or along the lakeshore into Etobicoke. I know if we increase our police force by 100 officers, that's going to put a $15 million or so pressure on top of a pressure already of $30 million or so the Police Services Board is facing in the 2011 budget. I know we're going to spend more on roads, and Madam Speaker, I'm very proud to say as a member of the Works Committee since being elected 7 years ago, I witnessed the additional $50 million per year that we've pumped into the Works Committee to fix roads and take more care of our roads. So I look at the spectrum of what we do as responsible people, taking care of the people who elected us, and I say there's going to be more spending, more spending, more spending, and all I've heard so far is we're cutting this tax, the vehicle tax, we're cutting the land transfer tax, we're freezing property taxes. The two don't connect. You can't spend more and raise less. But that's the leap of faith I'm going to take today to say, perhaps we can find this $50 million gap. I have more concern about the other gaps or the other leaps we may be asked to take. But I think on this day, Madam Speaker, after being given a vote of confidence by 11,000 people in my ward who knew what I did, who knew that I voted for the vehicle registration tax, but who have said to me, do what you think is right at City Council, Glenn, because you did it last time and we rewarded you with our vote of confidence, and I'm sure they'll do it again. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Doucette, you have 5 minutes.
Are we on? Do I have a speaker? Thank you very much. When I was canvassing my ward, many in my ward felt that this tax is a user fee. They felt that they would rather pay a user fee if they had a car, if they were seeing roads and infrastructure being fixed. I have a lot of seniors in my ward who are property rich but cash poor. If we didn't have this money, if we had a hold of $64 million, maybe not this year, but maybe next year it would have to go on to property taxes. If that happens, I have a number of seniors who would lose their homes. That's my concern. I know it was voted down, but I still feel this should be part of the budget, and therefore I think that as a responsible councillor, that's where it should be.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday, 5 minutes. Councillor Holliday? No? Okay.
Oh, he's right there. Sorry. Deputy Mayor Holliday.
Oh, sorry, yes. Councillor Deputy Mayor Holliday.
Charming business suit he has.
5 minutes.
Very briefly, Madam Speaker, all I wanted to say was that this matter never ever went to the public originally. In other words, the public never had a say in this tax, but once it was put in place, then we heard from them loud and clear that they didn't want it. The only opportunity the public really has had to have a say on this tax is during that last election. And I think all of you, including myself, and I know the mayor, heard it loud and clear that the public didn't like this tax. They don't receive anything for it. It was no more than having to pay extra money to get nothing. And they didn't like it. It's a tax on people with cars. People without cars don't have to pay it at all. So that wasn't the kind of thing that they wanted. And now's the opportunity to get out of it. And the sooner we get out of it, the better.
Thank you.